What's going on, everybody? It's PJ here with the CRNA Drip, and today we're going to be talking about why I decided to do travel nursing right before I start CRNA school. So let's get into it. So once I got into school, I decided that I wanted to travel and focus on saving money, as much money as I could. And traveling is literally the best way to do it. I made double the amount as a traveler than I did as a staff nurse. So I don't know what that says about these hospitals and how they pay their staffs, but they need to get it together. So this video is going to focus on things that I wish I would have known going into travel nursing, and it may answer some of your questions. If not, then you guys can always reach out to me and I'll try to answer any questions that you may have that I know. But I'm just a newbie as well, so I can try to answer them as best as I can. First thing, finding an assignment. That's what everybody wants to do. You want to find your first assignment. You want to land your first gig. Boom. So it can be very challenging because there are so many different agencies out there. So you really have to do your research to find which agency is going to give you what you need for your assignment. Some travel agencies are good, some are not so good. Some are a little bit bigger on the scale, some are smaller. It can be very daunting, very monotonous, very repetitive when you're trying to find an assignment through different agencies. They all ask for the same thing. You need to create a profile. You need to do a skills checklist. Skills checklist, skills checklist, skills checklist. If I did one more skills checklist, I was gonna lose my mind. And I'm thinking, well, can I use the same skills checklist? It's legit the same thing, but you have to do a new one for each travel agency that you come in contact with. So get ready for that. Another thing, most places want you to have at least 2 years of experience in your current specialty. Now, before I became a traveler and even before I became a nurse, you would hear that, oh, you just do 1 year of nursing on the floor and then boom, you can travel. Well, it's a little bit different now. A lot of places want you to have at least 2 years, and I personally don't disagree with that because within that first year, you're still trying to get your feet wet. You're trying to learn things in your niche. So it's not the best to try to jump into a totally new environment every 3 to 4 months and try to be a nurse. It's just not gonna work. So 2 years is a good foundation to be a traveler. But then they say we want you to have at least 1 travel assignment under your belt. Now, how is that gonna work? How? If I'm just starting, where am I gonna get an assignment from? So that's something that is a little bit sketchy, but there's workarounds. It can be done. That's just the preference that they put out. Talking to various recruiters can be tricky as well because sometimes you'll overlap recruiters in the same agency, which isn't necessarily a good thing because then you get double submitted for the same assignment, and hospitals don't like that. They don't like seeing your name coming through multiple times. So make sure that you stick to about 2 to 3 decent recruiters that you know you can vibe with, and you can be upfront with them and they're upfront with you, and they can try to get you all the things that you're looking for in your assignment. So what should you be looking for in this assignment? You don't want to just show up to work and say, all right, I'm here. You want specific things in the contract, and you're gonna hear me say this all through the video. Contract. You know where I'm going with this. If it ain't in the contract, then it's whack. So first thing, how close to the max amount of money are you getting for your meals and incidentals and for your housing for that specific area, that time frame, be it winter rates, summer rates? All those things apply to the amount of money that you get for your tax-free stipend. Tax-free. This is where the bulk of your money comes from as a traveler. It's not what the hospital pays you. That's actually a very low rate. The bulk of your money comes from your meals and incidentals and your housing funding from the travel agency. Can they grant any time off that you need? So if you have a vacation planned 2 months out after you start your assignment, you want to put that in your contract to say, hey, I definitely want to start this assignment, but I do have this obligation that I've already committed to in whatever month. I need these days off. And don't be afraid to request days off. I'm not saying to put 2 and 3 weeks off at a time. That's not gonna fly. But if you have a weekend that you need off that you can't space out through your scheduling, you can request those days off. They do need you, so they'll try to work with you in that sense. And some hospitals will say no more than 7 days off, no more than 2 weeks off, or something like that. So make sure that you're investigating and you're not just willing to sign any contract. Oh, this is a big one. Can you make your own schedule? This is like top of the list, because in my personal experience, my first contract, I just wanted to get my foot in the door. So I ended up signing a contract where I did not make my own schedule. And you can ask those questions with your recruiter. They may say, oh, we don't know. Make sure you find out before you sign if you can make your own schedule or not, and put it in a contract. I signed up for 4 nights a week, and I could not make my own schedule. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to California. I can do it. It's just 1 extra night a week. Wrong. So what ended up happening was I was working 4 nights a week, 1 week, and have a day off in the middle, and then working 3 more nights in a row, and then having 2 days off and another 4. It was madness. There was days I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't know what day it was. I just was hoping that I made it to the right place. So make sure you find out if you can make your own schedule or not. That is key. What's the call-out policy? If you get sick one day and you say, I have a really bad headache, I cannot make it to work today, and you call out, how much money are they going to be deducting from your paycheck for that week? Because you get paid weekly, okay? So if you get sick, or you have a concert that you want to go to last minute, you need to find out how much money they're going to deduct, or what the call out policy is. Because another story, I had an Ariana Grande concert that I wanted to go to, and I called out, and me thinking, oh, it's just going to be a shift worth of money. It's not going to be that bad. Wrong. There are some type of calculations that these agencies use where you don't lose just a shift worth of money. There is a big chunk of not only the hourly rate money that you're getting, but your housing and meal money that you lose, and it's a big amount. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe $200, $250. No, it ended up being about $500 that I missed out on for Ariana Grande. Now, girl, I love you, but come on now, I need my money. So make sure you find out what the call out policy is and how many times you can call out or allowed to call out before the agency gets upset or the hospital gets upset with you calling out. What's the shift cancellation policy? So this is different than the call out policy. So with the shift cancellation policy, they'll call you and they'll say, hey, this is such and such from staffing. We're actually overstaffed and we don't need you to come in today. Now, this is gonna go 1 or 2 ways. The first way, they'll just tell you to stay home, don't come in. And if you have guaranteed hours in your contract, then they'll have to pay you for those hours that you are required to work during the week. And that's perfectly fine. You can pay me to stay home. I have no problems with that. But there's a loop around with that, and some hospitals will do it all the time when they're overstaffed. They'll call you and they'll say, hey, this is such and such from staffing, and we're calling because we are overstaffed tonight, and we're looking for someone to cancel their shift. Do you want to stay home? Well, of course I want to stay home, but are you going to pay me my money? Now, if you tell them no, you don't want to come in, then they'll say, okay, you can stay home, we'll cancel you. But they'll consider that a voluntary cancellation and you will not get your money. And I know that firsthand. So make sure that you find out what the shift cancellation policy is for this assignment through your recruiter. If they have to ask the staffing office, make sure they ask for you, because sometimes the recruiters will just say, oh, I don't know. And if they're saying a lot of I don't knows, then really that's probably not a really good recruiter to begin with. They just want to get whatever bonus that they get for signing people up. Next, what happens if you cancel your contract completely? If you wake up and you say, look, it's just too much going on. I do not like this assignment. I don't like how far it is. I don't like the nurses on the unit. They're trying to sabotage me, and you want to cancel the whole contract. How is that going to affect you? For some agencies, if you cancel, you have to pay them back a certain amount of money for them getting you the assignment. or if you took money from the agency to pay for your housing, meaning they find housing for you by getting a lease or whatever the case may be, now you are responsible for paying them back that amount of money that they dished out for your expensive living. So that is something that you don't want to run into. So make sure before you just decide to up and call it quits that you know what's going to happen once you cancel that contract. You may also run into the problem where if you cancel before a certain amount of weeks, then you quote unquote get blacklisted from that agency or from that hospital from taking on further contracts. So don't burn all your bridges down. Try to make sure that you really do the investigations before you sign on the dotted line, because once you sign, that's it. What charting system does the hospital use? This is another big one, because if you put on your resume that you're experienced in Epic, Cerner, Sorian, and you've never worked with Epic before and you come across an Epic assignment, you're in big trouble, because they're expecting you to know what you're doing when you get there. As a traveler, you do not get a full week, 2 weeks of orientation. You get a hi, this is the unit, this is the break room, this is your computer, this is your assignment, and go. So you have to know the ins and outs of the hospital's charting system. Now, if you pick up an assignment that is doing an EMR conversion, meaning they're going from one charting system to another, then sometimes you won't know the prior charting system, but they're bringing you on because the system that they're going to, you are familiar with. So you want to make sure that you at least know the system that the hospital is converting to. And if not, I hope you're good with faking it until you make it. And last, what is the insurance like? Because a lot of your money is going to go towards your insurance. So you want to make sure that it's at least decent coverage if they're going to be taking out $200, $300, $350 out of your check each week for insurance that you can't even get a bottle of Robitussin from. So all in all, what did I like/do like about travel nursing? First of all, I love that you get paid weekly. Let's start there. So every week, every Friday or every Saturday, or however the hospital is going to give you your funds, it's there every single week. That eliminates so much stress from your life. Now, the more money that you make, there's always the possibility of more money that you're going to spend, which is what my issue was at first. But I learned how to budget. I learned how to save. So that took out that issue. But it comes more money, more problems. All of the general hospital orientation stuff that you have to do as a staff nurse, you don't have to do as a traveler. You get your basic orientation about the hospital. That's maybe a day or half a day. And then you're on the unit. Like I said, they're going to show you where to put your stuff. They're going to show you where your computer is and where your patients are. And that's pretty much it. And you are on your own, which I like. So you have to be able to be adaptable to quick changes, quick environments, because you don't get that really detailed orientation how you do as a staff nurse. So if you are a person that takes a while to pick up on things, you might want to stay a staff nurse a little bit longer before you decide to jump into traveling. And next, you have the opportunity to really increase your skill set and broaden your knowledge about different ways that hospitals take care of their patients. Everywhere has a different way of approaching different disease processes, and different units do things very much differently. And if you follow me on Instagram, then you know all about my Chicken Shack stories. And we just don't have time to go into that right now. But if you want to check those out, you can follow me at PJSaidit, PJSAIDIT on Instagram. And then also, you don't really get wrapped up into the unit drama about who likes who doesn't like who, why this manager sucks, why this manager doesn't suck, why we like them as a charge nurse, this charge nurse is lazy. You don't get involved in all of that. You're there to make your money and go home. Now, what I didn't like about traveling, starting off, if you can't make your own schedule, for me, if I had a little bit more time to travel, that would be an automatic no-go for me. Because the hell that I went through with that last assignment and working 4 days on, 1 day off, 4 more nights on, 5 nights on, that will never happen again. I barely do 3 days in a row now. So to tell me that I have to do 4 nights with only 1 day off and then come back for another 4, that's not happening. So I definitely didn't like that. So I didn't like the money that you lose when you call out. So if you're a person that likes to call out all the time, you may want to bring that down a notch, because it's actually a big difference in the amount of money that you lose. It's not just one shift. So for this assignment that I'm currently on, I try not to call out as much. I did have to call out one time, but it was very important. But that's neither here or there. Finding housing can be very tricky. I used Airbnb just because it was more flexible and I was able to find places closer to my hospital. So there are ways that you can get the agency to find housing for you, but they don't give you as much money in your check as they would if you just take all of the money and find your own housing. So I would recommend finding your own housing through Airbnb, or maybe a short-term lease, maybe 3 to 6 months if you decide to extend. And that way you have somewhere that's on a consistent basis that you can stay, and you don't have to worry about all the ins and outs of Airbnb and this, you can't live here this day, you have to find somewhere else to stay. And there's also hotels, but that gets pretty expensive too. So for me, Airbnb worked. For some people, it doesn't work. And going back to the differences of many hospitals, everywhere does things differently. And I didn't realize that until my first travel assignment. I was used to working in level 1 trauma centers where everything is evidence-based and it's just very much by the book. This level 2 hospital that I worked at for my first travel assignment, very much chicken shack, and that's all I'm gonna say on that. Getting floated, and I should have said this right under not making your own schedule, because getting floated is like one of the worst things that they could have ever done. And that's another thing you want to find out when you're talking to your recruiters about the assignment. Where are they gonna float you to? Where can they float you to? How often are they gonna float you? More than likely your first assignment, you can't wiggle out of getting floated, especially if you're taking an ICU contract. They're gonna want you to go to OBS, to Tele. They're gonna want you to go to the IMC. And none of those, no shade to any of those nurses, but it is not for me. Now, I've had horrible experiences with floating. My first time being floated, I went to a Tele floor and it just was not, it was not cute. I mean, the patients were getting up left and right. I was not used to that. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you getting up? They're going to the bathroom. They're talking a lot. It's so many meds that you have to pass. I don't have any pumps to work with. I can't look at a monitor to see a heart rate, a pulse ox, nothing, a arterial line, nothing. I'm just looking at a patient looking at me. That was a little bit awkward. My hospital, they can float you at any time during your shift. So one night I was on the CV ICU, and this was maybe my second or third day in a row. So I'm in my groove. I have my patients back, and here comes staffing. Calling at 12 o'clock at night. Hey, this is such and such from staffing, and we need your traveler to go to Tele 6. Excuse me? I've been here since 7 p.m. It is now midnight, and you want me to pack up and go to another floor and take on 3 new patients from 3 new nurses to finish out a shift. Horrible, tragic. That is one of the downfalls of travel nursing, especially with the ICU contracts, is that they will require you to float to lower level of care units. So be ready for that. And then lastly, finding out that travelers on the same contract as you are getting paid more money than you. For whatever reason, I don't know. They're part of the same agency. They have different recruiters. It's the same length of a contract, yet they get paid more than you. So that really swayed me away from my first agency to go to another one. And I don't really have that issue now because I'm really the only traveler at my current assignment. But that is something that can happen, and you shouldn't be shocked if it does, because I don't know how they negotiate these contracts. Don't freak out if it happens to you. Just finish out your assignment. You're still getting paid good money. Don't really worry about other travelers, because then you get into the politics and then that's just too much. So just kind of focus on you and your money and get out. But all in all, I do think that travel nursing is a great way to save money if you have been accepted into CRNA school, or if you're planning to save to apply to CRNA school. You definitely make good money. You just have to do right by it. And it's been serving me well, and I can't wait for January to come around and I'll be living like a peasant again in school. But it's okay because I'll have money saved, so I'll be fine. especially with the loans. So if you have any questions that I may not have answered or anything you can think of on the fly, just let me know. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, because I need to get these Trump checks from YouTube. That's going to be my secondary source of income while I'm in school. So let's get to it. And with that being said, I'm out.